What is going on, Bears fans? How is it going? Welcome back to another live episode of the Bear Down podcast, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, we are back with our week 2 post-game or pregame show. Jeez, I'm already getting antsy and ahead of myself. We are back with our week 2 pregame show. A very special guest joining us today. We'll get to that in a little bit. However, wherever you may be listening right now, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're live with us on Twitter, welcome back to the show. Feels good to be here. Feels good to have another week. The Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers tonight, the longest lasting, arguably the most heated rivalry in the history of professional football is going down. Do us a favor, if you haven't already, drop a like, subscribe, follow wherever you may be listening. Feels good to be back once again. I am your host, Chris Malpe, joined on my right by my co-host, Parth Shaw. Parth, a big slate today of NFL games, a doubleheader coming tomorrow night on Monday Night Football. Before we get into the Bears specifically, what are you looking forward to this weekend in terms of the landscape of the NFL?
Just looking for some good. Great to have it back. It's the second week of the season. I know. I think the Bears and Packers obviously had the Sunday night game, so that's gonna be a great time. I love watching Sunday night football whenever the Bears are on, and I know there's a couple of good games on the 1 o'clock slate. Excited to see how the Lions do again. I thought they played pretty well last week. I think they're against the Commanders team who also did really well, and those two teams I didn't expect to play that well. So it's lots of great games. Just looking at the board right now, we also have Cardinals, Raiders. I love NFC West games. That division is absolutely stacked this year. So we saw a little Mahomes versus Herbert on Thursday night. So yeah, that it's going to be entertaining to see who ends up with that one for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a ton to look forward to when you take a look at the board today overall. Dolphins Ravens should be a really good one. I think two aspiring teams in the AFC that are going to be playoff teams. That is most definitely going to be an interesting one. Patriots Steelers, another good one. We get to see the old man Mitchell Trubisky coming off of a great win against the Cincinnati Bengals. He is back facing the Patriots, a team that didn't look great in week 1. That should definitely be an interesting game. We've got Buccaneers Saints. A lot of good games down the board. The Rams looking to come back with a win. Same with the Broncos. Both have winnable games. Bengals Cowboys. We'll get to see Cooper Rush. Can Joe Burrow bounce back? And then obviously, I think both the games tomorrow night are great games as well. I mean, Titans and Bills, Vikings and Eagles. There's a lot to look forward to on this board. And overall, yeah, should be a good one. Parth, you said you're looking forward to the Lions. Why is that? I mean, I assume you think they're going to be a little better than in past years, but why Detroit?
Why Detroit? From what I saw last week, they were able to put up points against that Eagles defense. I think they had 30 points. They lost by a field goal against the Eagles, and the Eagles, in my opinion, are going to win their division this year. So what I saw of the Lions was a competitive team who plays hard, and excited to see. I have DeAndre Swift on almost all my leagues, but I know he's questionable heading into the game, or he's going to be splitting some reps this week due to his injury. So that's a little concerning for sure. But for fantasy purposes, obviously you got Swift, and then the Lions are in their division. So I always enjoy watching divisional games whenever the Bears aren't on. I always like to see how the other teams in the division are always doing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that should most definitely be a good one. Being here in Indiana, you and I both, obviously. Colts got a big opportunity to bounce back today against the Jaguars. That should be an interesting one. For anyone listening in live right now, before we do bring in our guest, we will be answering some fan-submitted questions later. If you guys have any questions about the Bears or the Packers, for that matter, given that our guest, if you know who we're bringing on, is a massive Packers fan, do us a favor, drop those down below in the comments. We will no matter which some of those later as Parth starts blaring some sound. However, Parth, we've got an interesting game on our hands this week. Obviously, Bears and the Packers, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time tonight. The Bears head to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. ESPN's matchup predictor giving Green Bay an 87.3% chance to win this one. The Bears with a 12.6% chance. The Bears, current money line, plus 360. Over-under for the game is 42. The Packers are 10-point favorites. Velus Jones Jr. doubtful in this one for the Bears. However, it looks like the Packers could also be without some major pieces. David Bakhtiari did not practice this week. He's questionable coming into this one. I would act under the presumption that he's probably going to be out. Elton Jenkins, their other tackle, looks like he could be missing this one as well. Alan Lazard did practice this week. He's coming in as questionable with an injury. However, I expect him to play. Parth, and we're still waiting on our guest here, so give us some time. However, if you're betting this game, Parth, if you were a betting man, the Bears are 10-point underdogs. The over/under is only set at 42. What do you like in terms of this week 2 game?
I like the Bears plus 10. I think the 10 points is a little bit too much. I know the Bears aren't the best team in the league and the Packers, but what I saw out of the Packers last week doesn't make me think they can win this game by 10 points. I thought Aaron Rodgers was struggling a lot. Their offense looked all over the place. And then on defense, the Vikings were able to tear them apart. Justin Jefferson got some really good catches in. I think he had over 100 yards in the first half. So, I expect the Bears to put up points against this Green Bay team, and I expect Aaron Rodgers to also come out firing. It's this, after a division loss, Aaron Rodgers is not fun to play against, but I think the Bears plus 10 is definitely the bet here. There's too many points. Just that's what my thinking is.
Believe I saw a stat a couple of days ago that said Green Bay with Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers coming off of a loss are something like 7 or 8-0.
Yeah.
Whether that be in the regular season or coming out of the playoffs and into week 1 of the next season. Green Bay is a team that is extremely dominant when it comes to winning off of a loss. And Minnesota looks good. I got to give them the benefit of the doubt. I feel like if I were going to be someone who is betting in this game, I think I'd probably also take the Bears. I think there is a lot going on in Green Bay. Obviously, no more Devontae Adams. Seems like they're going to be injured tonight. Can they get Aaron Jones the ball enough? They didn't do that last week. So there is a ton of storylines coming into this game. I think the Bears have momentum. I think Hungry Dog fights harder. I think the Chicago Bears want to come in and tonight they really want to make a statement, and it should be interesting to see how it pans out. Parth, let's talk a little bit about that over-under before we get into this. It's set at 42. The Bears aren't historically known as a team that puts up a ton of points. However, Green Bay, definitely an offense, similar to San Francisco's. If they do get going in past years, they've been someone who can step on your throat very hard. Any thoughts on this over-under spread here?
It's at 42. I think it's a little low.
I think I'd go over.
I think the game will go over 42, but I just stay away from Bears over-unders. I think that's just something you just don't bet on, with how the Bears have been historically. Most games usually either they're a shootout or it's a 10-3, 10-7, 19-13 type of win, and it's just how it goes. But I think the game actually will hit the over. I think we will see some offense today. The rain last week definitely impacted both teams on offense. The Bears weren't able to get anything going in the first half, and San Francisco wasn't able to get anything going in the second half. So, if we can get a good, clean game out of Justin Fields and the Packers, I think the over should hit pretty easily.
I think the over is most definitely on the table. All right, let's roll into this because I see our guest is in the queue here. Someone that you guys have been asking for a very long time. She's got 312,000 followers on TikTok. If you haven't seen her content, the links will be in the description, but you need to go check it out. She's got 30,000 followers on Instagram. She's a social ambassador for the Milwaukee Brewers. She is the self-proclaimed leader of the pack. Katlynn Gill, what is going on? Welcome to the show.
That was like the best intro I've ever received.
I appreciate it. We do our research here. But welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today? How are you feeling on this Sunday?
Great. I'm very nervous. I'm nervous every game day. Everyone assumes I'm always like this hyped up person, like, oh my God, the Packers are going to destroy everyone. I'm a nervous wreck, but I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. This is like the first podcast I've ever done. So
Sweet. Well, I'm sure it's not the last time, most definitely. But let's hop into this. So today we're basically going to be talking about everything from running down Green Bay. You'll talk to us a little bit about them. We're going to talk about some key positional matchups in this one and then wrap it up potentially by asking some questions from fans in the chat also. And then obviously something everyone's looking forward to is us making our picks at the end. So let's hop right into it. Let's start with Green Bay's offense. This is a really interesting one. Anyone who follows Katlynn on TikTok, and I know this for a fact, you are a huge Davante Adams fan. Obviously, that's the big storyline, not only heading into week 2 here, but this entire season as a whole. Davante Adams gone. Aaron Rodgers looked a little off sync with some of those wide receivers last week. They brought in Christian Watson out of North Dakota State. They've got guys like Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb still in the building. However, last week, taking a look at Rodgers, he wasn't able to get into the end zone with his arm. 22 for 34, 195 yards, and an interception. It might be talking more about Minnesota and the improvements they made. But Katlynn, I'm gonna pass it back around to you. Talk to us a little bit about Green Bay's offense in week 1 and potentially why you thought it was a little bit of a lackluster game.
Yeah. Sorry.
All good.
Obviously, it was really frustrating watching the Packers, but I knew week 1, it was going to be a matter of first game jitters out of the way, especially for the rookie wide receivers. It showed a lot with Christian Watson, but I mean, in terms of the run game, we got that mood eventually. So that's another one. I'm just excited to see Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon this season. We have not seen them healthy together, and I think that's going to be a killer duo across the NFL. It's obviously easy to get sucked into week 1 fears, and it didn't go very well, but I got to remember it's week 1. We'll be okay. And I don't think it was like an Aaron Rodgers issue per se, because I mean, like, even the big Christian Watson drop, that's everyone highlights, everything. He dropped it. Yes, it is his first game. Romeo Doubs, on the other hand, did pretty well. He did pretty well preseason. Christian Watson didn't have that opportunity as he was hurt, but I'd much rather have Aaron Rodgers in a rookie wide receiver core that the only job he has is to put it in their hands. And there's obviously no issue there. It literally hit him in his hands. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to bully this wide receiver core until they're Pro Bowlers by week 6. So I have no fears. I'm a little nervous today because that's a rival. And I mean, the Bears defense, obviously, I got to give them credit where it's due. I'm a little scared, but
it's a solid unit. A lot of people are sleeping on it. So
yeah. So I'm not really concerned. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, you couldn't ask for more than putting it in their hands. That's the issue that has to be worked out. But I think he has a lot. He's not going to let his offense of his last few years fail. So I have full faith in Aaron Rodgers.
Unfortunately, I have the exact same faith as you do. I feel like we've seen this script play out too many times. Parth, I'm going to pass it over to you. Yeah. We saw Green Bay stuck in the mud offensively last week. It seems like Rodgers, as I mentioned earlier, wasn't too in sync with his wide receivers. We saw Aaron Jones only get the ball 5 times, but he had 9.8 yards per carry on the ground. AJ Dillon was really one of the only pieces in Green Bay's offense that was really producing. However, I mean, you take a look at this Green Bay offense, they've still got the weapons. Cobb, Sammy Watkins is another interesting one who's now in the building, Robert Tonyan, etc. However, Parth, Green Bay could be down both of their starting right tackles tonight. What do you think about Green Bay's offense and how they performed in week 1, and what do you expect heading into tonight?
From what I saw out of week 1 was something that I don't expect from the Packers that often. We saw a lackluster offense, something that looks like I'm watching the Bears instead. But, I saw a couple of Packers fans tweet, now I know what it feels like to be a Bears fan or something like that, But, the Packers offense, at the end of the day, they have Aaron Rodgers, and he's a really good quarterback, one of the best in the league. So that's something you always got to fear for. And like she said, Katlynn said, he hit him in the hands. I mean, Watson had the ball in his hands. He's just got to make that catch. That's not on Rodgers. At the end of the day, Rodgers has to make sure that he can find the right guys at the right time. We're not going to see Davante Adams there anymore. So they're going to have to find creative ways to get Dillon involved, Jones involved, and also Doubs, and then Watkins, Watson, and all these new faces that Rodgers hasn't played with that often. So it's going to take some time for this Packers offense to get ready and get used to it. I'm not sure if it's going to click this weekend or tonight. I hope it doesn't click tonight. But I do see this Packers offense being really good for the rest of the season. There's no way you can let down Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and AJ Dillon. I think those 3 guys are going to be dangerous this year, and AJ Dillon especially. I think he's going to be a big pass catcher for them. I think he's someone who needs to get more involved in the pass catching role for them to succeed, as they don't have many wide receivers right now, and Rodgers is not comfortable with his wide receivers right now also.
Yeah, I think something with meshing with your wide receiver core, it's something that really comes with time, and I think
Yep.
Green Bay is going to figure that out, as Chicago will. I mean, there's a ton of new faces on this Bears team: Equinemius St. Brown, Katlynn, as you know, Darnell Mooney looking to put together a stellar year in year 3, Byron Pringle, a lot of these pieces. So we didn't see the Bears have the best receiving game last week, even though all things given, it was in a freaking monsoon. However, this Green Bay offense. I think the big thing for them tonight and the big thing for them all season, you have to get Aaron Jones the ball. I love what A.J. Dillon is able to provide. However, I think a lot of Packers fans and NFL fans in general who watched the game last week clearly understand that Jones needed the ball more. So it might not be as much Aaron Rodgers making all the plays now, and there's going to be a little more on those running back shoulders. However, I do see it as an opportunity tonight. I think the Bears defense matches up well with Green Bay, potentially better than they have in years past without Devontae Adams now. But I definitely think Green Bay is going to have a better game tonight, to say the least. Let's move into Green Bay's defense before getting into some more analysis on this game. Katlynn, it's always a tough task stopping Justin Jefferson. I promise you, the Bears definitely don't have a player like that. However, Green Bay's defense was exposed last night, and their defense is going to show the Bears, last week. They're going to show the Bears a tough task this week. I mean, up and down, they have playmakers all over. Guys like Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Devondre Campbell, Rashawn Gary. You can't forget about that secondary either. Jair Alexander just got the massive extension. Second-year cornerback Eric Stokes, Adrian Amos, former Bear Darnell Savage. Playmakers up and down. Talk to us a little bit about this Green Bay defense, your expectations for them this early in the season, and what you saw out of them last week.
Yeah, so obviously everyone's concerned about the loss of Devontae, Zadarius Smith, but as a whole, our defense didn't really change that much, and it's just a matter of every year they're going to get better and work better. Justin Jefferson burned us. That was tough. Our secondary, like you said, we got a lot of faces across the board. Stokes is getting in there, Jair. And I think it'll be a lot easier, no offense, to combat the Bears.
No, totally fine.
Versus Justin Jefferson and that Vikings offense. I think the Vikings are going to do a lot better this season than people are expecting.
Absolutely.
But I think it's just, once again, first week, get it out of the way, progress as the season goes, and on defense front, I mean, Packers have never been a big defense team, but I think all around, this is one of the best rosters we've had in a while. And a lot of people are entering further and further in years. And I think it's just an experience thing. And Jair's a great leader out there. So I'm expecting a better game today. First week was tough, but it's Justin Jefferson. So.
Yeah, Parth, the Bears are up for a little bit of a different task this week. Obviously, you take a look at the 49ers defense, and something we were talking about, clamoring about all last week was that pass rush. And the Bears did a decent job. I mean, they won 88% of their pass rush reps against the 49ers. Once again, tough conditions. However, their offensive line held up well. But you take a look at this Green Bay defense, there's playmakers all over the field. We saw some weaknesses in the San Francisco secondary with injuries to guys like Jimmy Ward. However, Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes look like he's playing some better ball. These guys won't give you the ability to breathe in the secondary. So, Parth, what do you expect out of Justin Fields tonight? And do you think the Bears will have the opportunity to keep on pace with Green Bay, assuming they're scoring points in this one?
Yeah, no. This Packers defense, I thought coming into the year was one of the best on paper. I mean, at the end of the day, their secondary has got Stokes, Jair Alexander, who's been a lockdown corner for a couple of years now on defense. And also their front seven without Zadarius Smith is still really solid, if not even better. I think we're seeing more out of other guys, and I think this Packers defense will definitely be a lot better than what I saw from last week. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's no easy task to guard. He's one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the league, the way he runs his routes. But I want to see Darnell Mooney capitalize on that. I think Mooney has really good route running skills, and I think he can capitalize on that Packers defense for that reason. But on the other hand, this Packers defense has shown to always beat down the Bears, get interceptions out of whoever's playing quarterback. So I want to see Justin Fields be able to hold the ball, make sure that he's getting to the right guy and not forcing it. That's the number one thing about this Packers defense. They are very advantageous, I guess you could say. If there is something that they see that's lacking from your Bears offense. They'll take advantage of that.
They have the players to exploit it for sure.
Exactly. And they'll exploit the weaknesses real fast. And that's something the Bears are going to have to watch out for on this Packers defense. And the number one thing is we got to watch out for Alexander. I don't know how to that guy always scares me. I think he's someone who's locked down a lot of the Bears receivers in the past. I know Allen Robinson wasn't able to get anything going against Jair. So I want to see this Bears offense be able to fly that ball out against Alexander, especially this week.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about this Bears offense. I got to be completely honest. I think they can hang around in this game. We saw Justin Fields last year put up 2 decent performances against the Packers, 300, almost 400, technically 400 combined passing yards. One of the games he was coming off of a pretty bad rib injury. So I'm not so worried about him. In part, we've talked about it all offseason, going to training camp and such. I do think signs of improvement. We saw him lead them back to an upset win in week 1, and I think that's worth noting. But I think he'll play a solid game tonight as long as Luke Getsy, who obviously reigns from Green Bay, continues to get him outside of the pocket. Justin Fields is the best quarterback, the best version of himself when you put him in situations where there's play action pass, there's run pass option, there's bootlegs. So if you can get him outside of the pocket, similar to what Katlynn said earlier, I'm not too worried about the Bears in terms of receiving. I think it might be a tough night for Mooney. We saw Allen Robinson. He wasn't really able to generate much at all against the Packers the last couple of years. However, someone else is going to have to step up. And as Katlynn said earlier, if the receivers can get into position, I trust Fields to put the ball in the right spot. So Green Bay's defense is definitely gonna come at Chicago and play aggressive from the get-go. They've shut down Chicago's run game the last couple of years. It's going to be a tough go for David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, and such. But I think the Bears offense can hang around, and I think it's going to be a closer game than a lot of people expect. Katlynn, we're going to move on to our positional matchups. I guess, part of the show. I'll let Parth and I go first for this. Basically, we are going to pick a positional matchup that we think our team needs to take advantage of if they want a chance to win this game. So you'll do it for the Packers. We'll both do it for the Bears. Parth, we talked a little bit about this earlier in the week, the importance of the Bears getting the run game going in this one, the importance of getting some exterior pass rush with these Green Bay tackles being out. What do you think is a positional matchup that the Bears have to win in week 2 if they want to win this game?
Yeah, I think the Bears' offensive line is going to have to step up in this one. I think the Packers' defensive line, once again, we saw 49ers try to get to Justin Fields. They were able to get to him a couple times last week. I think he's got sacked twice. He was hurried a couple times, had to throw the ball away or had to make some insane moves that he does and gets out of the pocket with how elusive Justin Fields is. But I'd like to see the offensive line hold up. I feel like if you give Justin Fields the time to throw the ball, he can get the job done. He's able to find guys open. He's able to get guys open with his legs also. So if the Bears offensive line can hold this Packers defensive line down, who's not as strong as the 49ers defensive line, but I think if the Bears can do their job and make sure that Fields has the time to throw the ball, I think the Bears can score some points and even have a chance to win this game at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's interesting you note that because I do think in the trenches, it'll be a little bit of an easier task for the Bears offensive line. However, I mean, you still got guys like Dean Lowry. Kenny Clark, I think, is one of the most underrated nose tackles in the league coming at you. So it's going to be tough going nonetheless. But if the Bears can win that matchup, potentially get some sort of a run game going like they haven't been able to do against Green Bay in years past, I think they could be in for some luck. I'm going to flip it over and go on the defensive side of the ball. I think it is so important that the Bears establish a pass rush early tonight. David Bakhtiari is most likely going to miss this game. Elton Jenkins, the other offensive tackle for the Packers, is banged up. He was limited every day in practice this week. So Parth, guys like Dominique Robinson that we saw last week alongside Robert Quinn, it is going to be so important that the Bears generate a pass rush. I believe we saw Aaron Rodgers sacked a couple of times last week against the Vikings. And guys like Robert Quinn, who are coming off career seasons, you have to be able to contain Aaron Rodgers if you want a chance in this one. So I think the pass rush, especially on the exterior for the Chicago Bears, is going to be huge in this one if they want to get a week 2 win. And more importantly, get Aaron Rodgers off the field. You've got to keep the ball out of his hands as much as possible. So, Katlynn, I hope you got a good idea of what we're doing here, but we're going to flip it over to you on the Packers side. I think there are so many situations where Green Bay could potentially take advantage in this one. What's a positional matchup when you look at this game tonight that you think the Packers have to win if they want to come away with a win in this one?
Yeah, like you were saying, Packers O-line were banged up, and Rodgers definitely got the heat of it last week. And I think especially with taking pressure off the wide receivers, Rodgers just needs more time. And our run game has so much potential, but Aaron Jones just wasn't getting the ball. A.J. Dillon got through a few times, but our offensive line, despite the injuries, the people need to step up, and I think that's going to be a huge factor because the Bears defense is no joke. They got a lot coming at them, a lot of power, a lot of energy. This is a rivalry, so they're going to be getting going right away, and
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be the biggest factor for the Packers is you got to protect Rodgers, and we got to get that run game going.
Love it. I love it. And Aaron Jones, I feel like I can't emphasize enough how important it is going to be for him to get the ball this week. I feel like he didn't get close to enough touches last week. So getting him involved is most definitely going to be important in this one. We're going to move on to fan-submitted questions. I don't know if we have any in the chat right now. If you guys are listening, I see we have a decent chunk of live viewers. But if you have any questions for any of us, drop them down in the comments. Here's one. This is a good one for you, Katlynn. Are Packers fans worried about their O-line holding up? I mean, you just touched on this, and we saw, I would say the Packers offensive line get exposed last week against the Vikings. I think the Bears bring a very tough task in this one. How confident are you, I guess I would say, on a scale of 1 to 10 in this line holding up tonight?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the O-line has posed a lot of problems for us in the past, even going into postseason last year. Bakhtiari's been gone for a while. That's going to be a huge factor coming back, but it's just a matter of getting by until, injuries are gone. And I'm not too concerned. I mean, Rodgers can do what he can in less time in the pocket. So once again, when you have Aaron Rodgers, that's not as much of a concern, but in terms of, once again, getting that run game going, that's going to be vital. So
Gotcha. Parth, I'm going to pass it over to you, and I'm going to change how I pose this question because it's technically the same question, just talked about a little differently. Talk to me a little bit about this Bears pass rush, because obviously it seems like they're going to have an opportunity to be a force up front and win that positional matchup. How confident are you that they're going to be able to get pressure here?
I think they should be able to get pressure there. Like the Packers can be without Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins, so I think the Bears definitely can get some pressure on the Packers. I was about to say 49ers.
It's week 2, buddy.
It's week two, exactly. Yeah, no, I think the Bears defensive line last week was able to get to Trey Lance here and there, make sure he felt uncomfortable. The number one thing is we're not going to be facing someone who's as mobile as Trey Lance, so that's definitely going to help out this Bears defensive line. It definitely sucks to not have a guy like Khalil Mack. And, when you're playing the Packers, you always think about how great Mack can be in those games, and sucks not having Khalil for sure. But you can see some things out of Travis Gibson this week. I think, last week we didn't see much out of him, but I think Travis Gibson is a huge piece on this Bears D-line. I think he needs to get to the quarterback. I predicted to him to get 10-plus sacks this year just because he had 7 last year in a very short amount of playing time. And I think he's someone who definitely needs to get to Aaron Rodgers. He has done it in the past. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, but half his posts are literally him sacking Aaron Rodgers and tagging him. It's kind of funny. The dude tags any quarterback he sacks. So I'd love to see Gibson get a sack and tag Rodgers tonight. That would be nice.
Sacking Aaron Rodgers is good, but my advice to Robert Quinn: just do not do the belt after. I feel like the last 3 or 4 appearances he sacked Rodgers. He just gets up and does the belt after, and it's never a recipe for success. Let's move on to one more before we get into our picks. I'll start with this one. Joe Proviso asks, how do you think the Bears linebackers will match up against the Packers run game? This is an interesting one. We saw Roquan Smith actually struggle last week, in my opinion, when I went back and watched the tape against the run. Once again, I give him the benefit of the doubt because the weather was just terrible. However, I think these Packers running backs, as I mentioned earlier, are continuing to get more importance on that offense without guys like Devontae Adams around more. They're becoming more so playmakers, especially A.J. Dillon. We saw him have a great week 1, even though the Packers obviously weren't able to do much offensively. I think the Bears match up nicely with them. I think Roquan Smith specifically, he can stop anyone. I think it's more so going to be important, once again, going back to the last question, that the Bears get push up front. I think that's going to be the most important factor in this game. So not much more to be said there, but let's move on to our picks. This is something that a lot of people have been waiting for. Katlynn, we're going to come to you last. I figure that's a good way to go. Parth, I think I know what you're going with here. Sunday Night Football, we've seen this play out so many times. The Bears and the Packers in prime time. Let us know who you got. Who do you have in this one and why?
I have the Bears winning this one. I know it's a hot take, and I know I've been thinking about it all week. It's just been whenever the Bears and Packers play, you're always excited throughout the week. It's just this season's also got me a little bit more excited after what I saw last week out of the Bears and just having Justin Fields and having that hope. I feel like with Fields as quarterback, we're never really at a disadvantage. With past quarterbacks, I felt like the Bears have a disadvantage, but with Fields, just with how he can improvise, how he can play the game, and how he just has in his past, I feel like the Bears do have a chance to win this game. I think we win 27-20. I think Fields gets 3 touchdowns this week. I think he puts up a really good game. And someone just commented something that was really interesting is the Bears are 4-1 with a rookie head coach against the Bears since 19.
4-1 with a rookie head coach. We could be in for something, Katlynn.
Exactly.
Parth, I like the prediction. However, I think I'm going to try and go for something a little more modest and be honest with myself. I'm going to go with Green Bay in this one. I think it's a lot closer of a game than most people are expecting. I think the Bears are going to be able to hold their own on offense, and I think the Bears defense will also be able to show up. However, I think the Packers end up gutting us with the run game. I think it's something that is most definitely going to be hard to stop and would be hard to stop, whether it's this year, last year, next year. The Packers still have Dillon and Jones. I think that's going to be very hard to slow down, even given the weakness that the Packers have up front. So I'm gonna go Green Bay 31-27. I think it's a lot closer game than many people expect. And the Bears go back to Chicago in week 3 to take on Houston and try and stay above 500. So should be an interesting week 3 game. However, I do think the Bears hold their own and maybe make a statement tonight, even if they lose on primetime. Katlynn, I'm going to pass it to you before we wrap this one up. I'm sure a lot of people listening in right now want to hear this, but let us know who you've got tonight. Give us a score prediction. Who's going to win this one and why?
All right. So I'm going to be humble on this one. I got the Packers, but like you said, it's going to be a lot closer of a game than people think. Hopefully it's not, but I'm going to say that to save myself. I think this is definitely a revenge game for Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon right now is looking like the RB1, and I think Aaron Jones has got a lot to prove. Aaron Rodgers in that Packers wide receiver corps went through a lot last week, and I think – honestly, with Tunyon, even on tight end, we're going to have a lot of pass game and a lot of run game. I think this is going to be a total Packers offense-focused game. Hopefully, our secondary finds itself out. Jair is obviously coming off a long last season of injury. He's got a lot to prove, and I think it's just I'm excited to see the Packers finally piece it together, but I think this is going to be the week. Aaron Rodgers hates the Bears, and there's no way Aaron Rodgers lets us fail this week. So I actually haven't thought of a score prediction, but I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. I think both offenses are going to be ballistic, and the Packers might fall behind first, but definitely Packers win.
Oh man, if the Packers fell behind early, I feel like Parth, I can already envision the Bears fans on Twitter give us the NFC North crown now. This is over.
Hey man, if we beat the Packers and 49ers in back-to-back weeks, I'm just saying.
Quit sleeping, man.
Those are 2 NFC championship level teams right there. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Definitely would be interesting going back home to face Houston 2-0. We'll see if the Bears can pull it off, though. I think we're in for a good one tonight. Thank you guys so much, wherever you may be listening right now, for tuning in to our Week 2 pregame show. Katlynn, Gill, it was an absolute pleasure. I'm sure we'll have to run it back and do it again in the future, but we're big fans of what you do. Keep absolutely killing it. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
So
I appreciate this. This was a lot of fun. Good luck tonight. All good vibes. Good luck.
Yes. No hatred. No hatred.
You
probably won't see me on TikTok for a week. So my comments aren't going to be doing too well.
Well, I promise I won't be blowing up your phone with texts tonight because I would feel bad. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Just so everyone knows, links to everything Katlynn does, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, will be down in the description. So be sure to go and check her out. Katlynn, Gill, thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Guys. Bye.
Well, that'll pretty much do it for our Week 2 pregame show. A great success for sure. Fun. We've never had a guest from the opposing team on a pregame show, so that was definitely interesting. But thank you guys so much for tuning into the Bear Down podcast. We are posting the most comprehensive Bears coverage on the web all off-season and regular season. We are in the regular season right now. For some reason, I'm a bit rusty. We haven't done these live shows in a while. But if you haven't done so already, do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe, follow, wherever you may be listening. Share the podcast. Give it a 5-star rating. If you want more content from us, the link to our website is down in the description, beardown.com. We post columns, articles, and blogs on there, getting you guys ready for every Bears matchup throughout the regular season. So check out our website to find out more about what we are about. I just said about a lot. If you would like to find the podcast on social media, you can find it on Instagram and Twitter at Bear Down. And finally, you can find the links to all of our personal social media pages down in the description wherever you are listening. It's a great way to interact with us, and you can see our thoughts on all things Bears, the entirety of the National Football League, as well as all of Chicago sports year-round. Parth, definitely a long one today. However, I feel like a game this important this early in the season deserves this type of attention. Any last words before we sign off?
Yeah, no, it should be a great game. I'm excited. Sunday Night Football, Bears, Packers. Can't go wrong with that. The best rivalry in almost all of sports. So should be a great game. Yeah, I hope the Bears can pull this one out. It should be a good game at Lambeau Field also, which is a little bit nerve-wracking. I do not like playing in Green Bay, but I guess they only schedule Sunday nights between Bears and Packers at Green Bay. It's literally never in Chicago. So
2019 was in Chicago. I believe it was the NFL opener in the 100th season.
That's the only time we've had it. But other than that, I swear it's always at Lambeau. So, we only got it because it was also our 100th year too. So I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, should be a good one nonetheless. All three of us had predictions that were close games, and I think that's generally what we all expect. So should be in for a good game tonight. Going to be a late night. Would be very nice going to bed following a Bears win, but I expect the Bears to hang in this one, compete, stick around, and maybe they will be able to pull off another upset. Thank you guys so much once again for tuning in. We're bringing you guys Bears content throughout the entirety of the regular season. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe, follow if you haven't already wherever you are listening. We will have our post-game show out tomorrow. Unfortunately, not coming at 2 a.m. tonight for those of you who wanted to listen, but we are college students. We do need some sleep. Thank you guys, everyone who tuned in live, for listening in and talking to us. It's been an absolute pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Maltby. And as always, Bears fans, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. Let's get it done tonight in Green Bay. That's pretty much it for us. We'll be back with our post-game show tomorrow. Peace out.